You think saving a couple bucks on hot dogs is harmless? Wait until you see what's really hiding inside those bargain packs. We're talking filler meat, mystery textures, and sodium levels that rival instant noodles. Today, we're exposing 7 grocery store hot dogs that are all risk and no reward, where the biggest danger isn't the price tag, it's what's behind it. Once you know the truth, you'll never grab the cheapest pack again. Number 1. Bar S Classic Franks. Bar S built its reputation by being the cheapest hot dog in the freezer case. The one pack you could always grab without checking the total on your receipt. But that low number hides a real bill that shows up later. The formula behind that orange label depends on the lowest cost blend of meats, mostly chicken and pork, run through intense processing to stretch every ounce. The result is a soft, almost pudding-like frank that's built more for volume than bite. When you cook one, the texture gives it away. There's no snap, no real chew, just a spongy bite and a faint sweetness that clings to the tongue. That sweetness doesn't come from any special recipe. It's the taste of sugar and corn syrup, adjusting the salt that holds everything together. The flavor is faint because what you're mostly eating is binder, ingredients designed to glue the meat slurry into shape, not to bring out beefiness or smoke. Here's the truth. These franks are engineered more like storage material than food. Fillers and preserving agents are mixed in to extend shelf life, letting each pack survive weeks in transit and months in your fridge. It's the kind of structural chemistry that keeps the cost low and the label bright, but leaves little actual nutrition. Food scientists have pointed out that this level of mechanical processing strips down the meat cells, leaving less real protein and concentrating sodium in every bite. You end up with what looks like dinner but acts like a dietary trap. High salt hits your blood pressure, chemical stabilizers linger in your system, and the artificial balance of sweet and soft tricks you into thinking it's harmless comfort food. It's filler disguised as lunch, and the savings vanish the moment you remember what that's doing to your health. Bottom line, Bar S, it cuts your grocery bill only to charge your body later. And unfortunately, they're not the only ones taking that shortcut. Number 2. Oscar Mayer Classic Wieners. Few foods feel more familiar than an Oscar Mayer Classic Wiener. The red and yellow pack feels safe, like something you grew up with at family cookouts. That sense of comfort is the brand's strongest weapon. You trust it because it's been around forever, not because you've read the ingredient list lately. And that's the problem. Familiarity has taken the place of scrutiny. The label claims no fillers, but the fine print tells another story. The blend relies heavily on mechanically separated chicken and turkey mixed with pork, bound together with water, corn syrup, and curing agents. That mix is treated until it becomes a silky, uniform paste. The same texture that's made people compare it to bologna. It's not that the formula changed overnight, it's that industrial processing replaced real meat texture with an imitation chew that never snaps back the way true beef does. Here's the truth. Big brands like this lean on nostalgia to cover a long slide in quality. Those childhood ads and jingles created a comfort image that persists, even as the meat mix has shifted toward cheaper cut. Sodium phosphate and sodium nitrite keep the color bright and shelf life long, while corn syrup rounds off the salt into something that feels smooth. It's a chemical balancing act hiding behind the friendly packaging. The health halo here is one of the most deceptive traps in grocery aisles. When you see a brand name you assume it's safe. But nutrition watchdogs have noted that these franks walk a thin line between protein source and preservative delivery system. The protein counts don't tell the whole story when most of the mass is highly processed meat, bound with additives instead of muscle. Bottom line, Oscar Mayer's classic wieners are comfort food built on memory, not on honest nutrition. They taste like the past, but inside they're a lab routine of sodium, syrup, and spin. And if that feels like a letdown, the next brand proves that even the backyard grill favorite can come with a much steeper chemical bill. Number 3. Ballpark Beef Franks. Ballpark sells the stadium dream. The name alone makes you hear the crowd, smell the grill, and feel like you're at the game. Their all-beef pitch sounds like the safe middle ground. Better than bargain brands, still affordable, and perfect for family cookouts. But that grill-ready image hides something much heavier than you expect. The true star inside that bun isn't beef, it's sodium, and plenty of it. Some of their franks carry sodium levels that brush against what you'd find in a can of processed soup. A single serving can hold hundreds of milligrams, more than what most people should have in a meal. Nutrition experts point out that the sodium to protein ratio here tips in the wrong direction, meaning you get more salt than nourishment. That balance stresses the heart and blood vessels long after the cookout ends. And then there's the branding language. Grill master, beefy bite, plump and juicy. It sets you up for a gourmet experience, but turn the pack over and the ingredient list brings you back to reality. Corn syrup shows up again, acting as a hidden sweetener, followed by potassium lactate and preservatives that keep that glossy finish. The overall texture feels dense but soft, a result of fat blends and stabilizers doing more work than natural beef muscle. Here's the kicker. Ballpark's bold chew and smoky scent only mask how processed the meat really is. You save a couple dollars at checkout, but those savings can vanish when your blood pressure climbs. Think of it as getting discounted tickets to a doubleheader, only to pay double for the doctor visit later. The salt and fat hit fast, the health cost sneaks up slower. Bottom line, Ballpark's bite hits hard, but it's the kind of hit your heart doesn't need. And if this is the middle ground option, wait until you see how the next store brand label plays the same game with even fewer rules. Number 4. Great value hot dogs. Here's the core of the story. Great value hot dogs show what happens when price completely replaces purity. Walmart built this private label to feed families for less, promising full plates on a tight budget. But behind that bargain strategy sits an entirely different cost, the kind that doesn't show up on your receipt. The real value comes from cutting ingredients down to the cheapest form that can still be called meat. Those savings start at the grinder. Instead of whole beef or pork, the mix leans on mechanically separated chicken, a fine paste produced when high-pressure machines strip what's left on poultry bones. The result is part meat, part connective tissue, part unusable scrap, spun until it becomes a batter. Add water, salt, nitrates, and cheap flavor chemicals, and you get a pink blend that can hold shape without falling apart. It's not exactly a recipe. It's a formula meant to survive shipping, sit on a shelf, and sell by the dozen. Here's the truth. Every shortcut here has a reason: to stretch shelf life, boost yield, and disguise low-quality texture. Sodium levels run high because salt is the easiest stabilizer. Nitrates keep the color bright long after the meat should have dulled. Artificial smoke and sweeteners fill in the scent gap left by missing fat. Together, these create an edible illusion. Something that looks like a normal hot dog, but acts more like a preserved lab sample than fresh food. You feel the trade-off later. High sodium taxes your heart, while regular exposure to nitrates and cheap binders stresses your cells. Over time, that's not just bad eating, it's the hidden tax of the dollar dog lifestyle. The money you save at checkout can turn into medical bills down the road. Bottom line, Great Value's hot dogs cost less only because your body pays the rest. And even national labels have followed that same engineered shortcut, proving this isn't just a budget problem, it's a transparency one. Number 5. Gwaltney Hot Dogs. Some call them chicken hot dogs. Reviewers call them something else entirely, unrecognizable. Gwaltney Great Dogs built their name by pitching affordability and lighter eating. The label flashes 40% less fat, the price stays around $2, and the brand claims national pride as America's #1. One chicken dog. On paper, it sounds like a simple, smart choice. Yet what ends up sizzling in the pan tells a much different story. Consumers report that these hot dogs barely brown, turning from a pale pink paste to a dull blush without that grilled crust you expect. The texture stays soft, almost doughy, with none of the satisfying snap real meat gives. One online reviewer called them absolutely horrific and said the sight alone was hard to stomach. Another ranked them among the worst hot dogs they'd ever tasted. When reviews start focusing on appearance before flavor, you know something deeper is wrong. Here's the truth. Gwaltney relies on mechanically separated chicken, the cheapest kind of processed meat possible. Industrial machines push pressed bones and leftover tissue through fine screens until everything turns into a uniform slurry. That mush includes tendons, skin, and veins, all blended so thoroughly that it no longer resembles chicken at all. It's efficient for the factory, terrible for your body. Nutrition specialists explain that this method strips away dense protein while concentrating salt and preservatives to keep the mixture stable. That's how a brand can boast fewer grams of fat, yet hide soaring sodium and diminished nutrition. What's sold as 40% less fat is often a trade for more chemical load. You trade bite and taste for salt, burn, and water retention. The result is flavor fatigue and measurable strain on blood pressure when eaten often. Bottom line, Gwaltney Hot Dogs don't just miss the flavor mark, they stand as proof that budget meat can cross the line into manufactured matter. And the next contender doesn't even bother to hide it. Its smoky scent is nothing more than chemical camouflage. Number 6, Eckrich Franks. Eckrich markets itself as a premium, smokehouse-inspired hot dog that should taste like it came off a wood fire. The label carries that old-world promise, and the aroma hits strong the moment you tear the pack. But that smoky scent isn't coming from slow wood chips. It's coming from a lab bottle. The company leans on thick synthetic smoke flavoring to simulate hours in a smokehouse without ever lighting a flame. It creates a convincing scent, but hides what's really inside. That heavy smoke isn't for depth, it's for distraction. The flavoring and salt combination covers leaner, more processed filler meats that lack natural richness. Artificial smoke molecules coat the tongue and dull your ability to notice off notes in texture or seasoning. In effect, the smokehouse impression works like a mask, drawing your focus to intensity instead of quality. It gives you the illusion of craftsmanship while keeping costs low. Here's the truth. These artificial layers amplify chemical absorption and throw your taste buds off balance. The smoke's strength forces your palate to accept more sodium, and the preservative mix helps the product survive long distances while tasting fresh. That's how you end up with a hot dog that feels satisfying at first bite, but leaves you thirsty and sluggish later. When scientists describe food as engineered for sensory response, they're describing exactly this formula: taste stimulation without substance. Dig into the ingredients and the pattern becomes clear. Multiple sweeteners appear to warm the flavor, stabilizers keep the mixture glossy, and redundant additives hold moisture where good meat should. Each piece adds up to a controlled illusion of juiciness. The branding whispers craft, but the recipe shouts factory. Bottom line, Eckrich isn't a smokehouse experience. It's a science lab shortcut built to sound artisanal while functioning as processed meat logistics. Even with all that faux gourmet polish, it still looks refined only until you meet the last name on this list, where nostalgia itself preserves a decades-old formula that never should have survived this long. Number 7, Armour Hot Dogs. Armour Hot Dogs built their fame on a jingle that sold them as the hot dog for everyone. Kids, athletes, even the family dog in the lyrics. That catchy line made them sound fun and versatile, but the current package tells another story. Decades after that tune faded from the airwaves, Armour still runs on old techniques built for cost, not quality. The brand survives on price and nostalgia, depending on shoppers who remember it from the lunchbox era. Back when frozen dinners were still a novelty, meat companies leaned on heavy curing salts and emulsifiers to hold scraps of muscle together. Armour never really moved beyond that. Modern buyers now read ingredient panels expecting short, clean lists. Instead, Armour's label runs long, packed with curing additives and stabilizers that have barely changed since the 1960s. Those same tricks that once made the dog's shelf safe now make them a chemical showcase. The taste reflects it. Mild to the point of sugary with a mushy texture that collapses instead of snapping. Each bite tells you more about processing than seasoning. That texture comes from mechanical meat emulsions, the fine grind that turns low-grade meat and fat into a uniform paste. What used to be considered efficiency now feels dated, especially when the average consumer wants texture and clarity over unrecognizable blends. Here's the truth. Health groups keep warning about the steady flow of nitrates and nitrites that still show up in products like these. Those compounds stabilize color but have been linked by researchers to higher risks of certain cancers when consumed often. The more outdated the recipe, the heavier those additives tend to run. The disconnect couldn't be clearer. Modern stores full of clean label choices, and one brand frozen in time, selling the same chemical-heavy comfort food your grandparents ate. Armour Hot Dogs prove that what passed for safe once can be the worst processed holdover today. And when you measure cost and health rather than dollars, the cheapest classics end up being the most expensive meal you'll ever make. The hidden cost of cheap hot dogs isn't what you pay at checkout. It's what your body handles later. Each bite adds to a steady load of sodium, fillers, and curing chemicals that stress your system far more than you think. Studies show that regular processed meat intake can raise the risk of colorectal cancer, proving these additives do more than just preserve color. One clean label beef dog once in a while is safer than a weekly pack of engineered fillers. Rethink cheap equals smart. Subscribe now and I'll show you which affordable brands are actually safe for your grill and your heart.